Alright guys, welcome back to the channel. I just want to do a real quick video talking about why would we port our guns. And on the table we have 5 ported guns here before you to look at, and these are just for you to look at as we talk about several thoughts. And sorry guys, I haven't made a video in a little bit as well. I've been on vacation with my kids, and so I wanted to do a quick video to kind of talk about a subject that kind of came up while I was on vacation. I was watching somebody's video and they compared a ported gun to a gun they had upgraded and changed the recoil system and put buffers in it, and they basically said that their ported gun that they shot didn't do as much good or reduce recoil as much as they thought it would, comparing it to what they had done to their pistol without porting it from the stock configuration. They felt like they had done more just changing some springs and putting some buffers in there than the difference between their upgraded gun to the ported gun. They said yes, the ported gun did shoot flatter, but the upgrades they did actually helped with recoil as much, if not more, than going from that buffer system to the ported gun. Now, that being noted, I think the ported gun he was shooting had not had the springs changed and buffers put in it. So if you would have done the same upgrades in the ported gun as he did in his regular version of the gun, then you may have seen even more of a difference, because the more you tune a ported gun, the better results you will get as far as recoil reduction and softness of the gun. So let's talk about ported guns for a second. Let's show you the guns real quick. Here's the Canik Rival S. This is the Falcon 9XC that I have had ported. Call it the port comp. This is the Archon Type B Gen 2. And this is the Masterpiece DS9 Hybrid V6 ports. And this is the P10C, 5 ports from Mac Defense. I didn't say it, but this is also from Mac Defense. These two are done locally by a guy I know who's not ready to get into doing it publicly yet, I don't think, so we're not going to say his name. And this was done by Masterpiece themselves in-house. Alright guys, so let's talk about it real quick. What do you get from porting a gun? And I've had people comment, and I've watched videos where people said that porting the gun, they thought that porting a gun would be like putting a muzzle brake on a heavy rifle where you pretty much can delete the recoil altogether. But that's the issue that you're ignoring. Is the main point that you're ignoring when you say that is you don't realize what you're saying, because semi-auto ARs work completely different. All that's having to actuate is the bolt of the gun, and the gases that are released from the barrel, as long as they're prematurely released, it runs the bolt back. So you're able to tune an AR to pretty much completely eliminate recoil, almost completely, if you tune it correctly. A bolt action gun, there's no energy required to run a bolt or any kind of semi-auto mechanism. So a bolt gun with the right brake, you could put as large of a brake, you can port it as much as you want to, the gun will still run 100% reliable. The problem with saying you're wanting to reduce recoil down to 0 with any of these guns is obvious. And it's something a lot of people don't think about, even though it is obvious. A lot of people don't think about this. These guns run, and how they work is all on the recoil itself. So no semi-auto pistol like these in this kind of design. There's maybe several kinds of designs that may work different, but in this particular kind of design, which is 99% of pistols, semi-auto pistols, no pistol with this kind of design that you see on the table can run reliably if you reduce the recoil down to 0. There's just no way. It's impossible. It's technically impossible, because these actions are all ran. The bullets are ejected on the recoil. The bullets are picked up from the magazine, pushed back into the chamber from the recoil energy of the gun. So you reduce recoil completely, and you completely make this basically a single shot pistol. And that's not what you want to do in a semi-auto pistol. So that is the main reason why you cannot, absolutely cannot make a 0, let's just say a no recoil, a no felt energy into the hand semi-auto pistol. You just cannot completely eliminate it. Can you make it to where it's a whole lot softer? Yes, but you cannot completely eliminate recoil. You cannot completely eliminate muzzle flip, and that's simply because of the physics. That's simply because of the design, the engineering of these pistols. It's absolutely impossible. What we want to do is make a 9mm shoot close to as soft as a lightweight 22 long rifle semi-auto pistol. That's kind of what you want to do. If you can get it to where it's fairly close to shooting a 22, it's never going to be exactly to where a 22 is, because a 22 usually has a lighter slide. It usually has lighter springs. It don't need as much energy to eject the round. It doesn't need as much energy to push the next round into the chamber. It's a much smaller cartridge. There's so many reasons why you can't quite get it to 22 felt recoil. It's almost impossible. But can you get it fairly close? Yes, and especially depending on what kind of 22 you're shooting. If you're shooting a really lightweight 22 semi-auto, you're probably going to be able to get some of these guns, especially the heavier guns, to feel kind of close to those in their recoil impulse. But it's really hard to do. But that's kind of your goal. You can't never make your goal to completely eliminate the recoil of the gun, like we just said, because then you make these paperweights after the first shot. We do not want to do that. Okay, so let's talk about that a little bit. What are we trying to do with these, and what's the reasons why we would port a gun? If it doesn't make the recoil completely go away, what's the advantages and what's the disadvantage? I'm going to say one advantage, which is obvious, and then we'll talk about a disadvantage, two disadvantages, and then we'll talk about another advantage that nobody talks about, and that's what we'll talk about at the end of the video. So the advantage that everybody knows is you're going to get anywhere from, say, 5% to 50% reduction in muzzle flip when the gun goes off. Anywhere from 5 to 50%, depending on how it's tuned, what gun it is, how much porting or comping you do. And anything I say on this will have to do with comps as well, but comps are a little different. May need to be tuned a little bit different, may need to be tuned the same way a port would. Just depends on the gun, the platform. But this is related to comps as well. Ports and comps do things a little bit differently, but they also work a lot the same way, just also differently. Anyway, as far as the way they're tuned, a lot of times needs to be done the same way. It just depends on the platform and how it's made. But so you get 5 to 50%. 50 being the extreme, 5 being kind of a really low reduction in muzzle flip from porting a gun. 50 being, that's probably about the best you can do from porting a gun, is get up about 50%. And that's very few platforms that I know of. I've never been able to achieve 50% muzzle reduction, but I think I have come pretty close to that. But 50%, I would have a hard time saying I have. You also can get anywhere from 5 to 25%, just guessing off the feeling different guns over the years, 5 to 25% reduction in energy into the palm of the hand when you're shooting guns. So the energy coming straight back in your hand, you can get anywhere from 5 to 25% reduction, because gases are being expelled early, and they're being expelled instead of forwarding, which is going against your hand, they're expelled upwards from the gun. So that keeps the energy from coming back in your hand as hard. Not as much as muzzle flip, muzzle rise. It doesn't help as much there in the palm of the hand as it does in muzzle rise, but it does help. And I would say it's usually around half. So whatever you reduce muzzle flip, you may reduce half into the hand, but also it depends on how it's tuned and what platform, because you may feel very little difference in the energy in the back of the hand and a lot of difference in the muzzle rise. It just depends on all the tuning and the way you upgraded, the way it's ported, the way it's comped, the springs you use, the platform, the gun, the weight of the gun. It all varies based off those things, but it does make a difference almost every time. Just not as much difference as what some people would like for it to. Some people think it's a magic. It's a magic trick when you port a gun. It just all of a sudden becomes this extremely flat shooter that nobody can compete with. That's just not true. Some people who have shot the same platform for years, shot thousands of rounds through it, may even find that it hurts because of all their training they've had on that platform. It may hurt their times at competition. It may hurt their times when they're training on the range, when they're doing different drills. Porting a gun may hurt your timing because you are simply so used to the timing of your gun without the ports that now you've had to retrain yourself and reprogram your brain to run a gun that just is timed differently, okay? Just like putting a turbo on a car. A race car driver who's drove a car without a turbo, without a supercharger, and they've drove that car for years, They can't just get in a turbocharged car that maybe have more power, more torque, or a supercharged car and drive it the same way, maybe not even drive it at the same speed. They may lose control of it. They may not know how to corner the car properly and throttle the car properly. It's the same way with this, guys. If you've shot the same platform unported for years and thousands of rounds later, you may find that porting your gun hurts more in your times, and with all the training that you've had, you may hurt yourself worse than actually give yourself an advantage. If you're new to a platform, if you've shot less than, say, 5,000 rounds your whole life, and you've recently bought a new gun, and you're wanting to push your equipment to the next level, and you're wanting to push your equipment to its max potential, and you've not really trained on one specific platform very much your whole life, then yes, I think porting is the way to go. I think you can see advantages from it. I think you will enjoy having your gun ported. And so that is the advantage number one. The disadvantage, we'll go over them real quick because we got to make this video quick. Disadvantage will be it allows gases to be extracted into underneath your slide, because even though you have your slides cut, gases do leak around the barrel, and it does cause your gun to get dirtier. You will need to clean them more often to be as reliable. But I would say you can go 500 to 1,000 rounds sometimes without cleaning a ported gun and still get good reliability out of it. Depends on the platform. You may need to clean it every 200 or 300 rounds. You may need to clean it every 500. You may need to clean it every 1,000. Most of the time, you're going to get 1,000 rounds out of these. No problem without cleaning. You say, well, I don't want to carry a pistol like that. I need to clean every 1,000 rounds and bet my life on it. Guys, how many times are you going to need to shoot 1,000 rounds in a self-defense scenario in between cleaning your gun? Even if China invades the U.S., you're probably not going to get to shoot 1,000 rounds before your gun before you can clean it. I'm just saying. So I wouldn't worry so much about that. Every gun needs to be cleaned every 1,000 rounds anyway. So yeah, there's that. You do need to clean your guns. You need to take care of them. You don't have to, but these do require you to clean them slightly more often than a non-ported gun for them to be as reliable. Not saying they're not reliable. They're very reliable if tuned properly. Okay, that's a disadvantage. Let's see. Another disadvantage to ported guns. Have to make sure these are tuned, guys. You can't just take and put holes in a barrel and just say, okay, this is going to be 100% reliable, and take it to your next match or take it to your next training course or do a bunch of drills through it and think it's going to run 100% reliable. There may be tuning in your striker springs, hammer springs, recoil, mostly recoil springs. You may want to add different buffers and things to even help with the porting. You may not. You may have to change your recoil spring altogether. You may not. You may can adjust the one you currently have. You may need to change the spring on the current guide rod. You may want a brand new guide rod just specifically meant for it. It's all based on the platform. So you do have to tune the gun for ports to run 100% reliable. Just one of the things that has to be done if you want a ported gun to run reliably. Okay, guys, so that's your second disadvantage. The last part of this video I want to make about a subject that's not talked about. And I think this is where ported is the biggest advantage, even though it's overlooked, it's underrated, and it's not thought about enough. And it's even hard to know how to say it, and I think that's why it's not talked about, is because it's hard to know how to say this. And so I'll do the best job I can off the top of my head to explain this. What person, and am I talking to, that if you're a gun lover and you've shot a lot of guns, what person can shoot, say, a 45 as quick and accurately as a 9mm? I mean, let's go back. As quick and as efficiently and as accurately as a .22 long rifle target pistol. Now, guys, if you say, yes, I can shoot a 45 ACP 1911 stock as fast as I shoot, say, a Beretta Neos or a Ruger 22 semi-auto or a Smith & Wesson 22 target auto, congratulations. You are one of the 1%, and you are awesome, dude. I mean, congratulations. You are definitely the best of the best, and you are the top 1% of your game, okay? If you can shoot a 45 auto as fast and accurately as a 22, then this is not for you. You can skip the channel. You can skip this video, I should say, and you need to find somebody with more information to help you become a better shooter, because I'm not it, because I've not arrived at your level yet, okay? Basically, that's what I'm saying. But I'm going to say that almost every one of you going to say, yeah, I can shoot a 22 target semi-auto faster and more accurately. I've taken 22 target pistols out, and at a head box at 10 yards, you can just pull the trigger as fast as you want and get a baseball-sized group. So you can do headshots at as fast as you want to go with very little recoil. And the reason for that is not necessarily just how soft the gun shoots. It's not really how accurate. Most of these guns are just as accurate, or almost just as accurate. Most 9mm 45s are almost just as accurate as 22s. Maybe slightly less depending on what kind of gun it is. But the accuracy is not of these guns is not the problem. It's how our brain is at peace with kind of how these guns are going to recoil. And that's what I was saying, it's hard to explain. But there's a certain level, guys, when you get recoil beyond a certain level, that's when, no matter how much you practice, there's always going to be a little bit of recoil anticipation. And a lot of, even the trainers say it, it's almost impossible to completely get rid of recoil anticipation. On 22s, we pretty much can. Our brains is so soft, it's so comfortable, we're so ready and not afraid of those guns. We feel like we treat them like toys, we don't treat them like toys in our safety issues, but I'm just talking about, we treat them like toys when we're shooting them. We're just like, oh, I can just pull the trigger as fast as I want. I can shoot anything I want. I can shoot 50 yards. I can shoot clay pigeons. At 100 yards, sometimes I can shoot clay pigeons with a 22 long rifle pistol. I've done it before, so I know it can be done. I've done it with 9mm as well, but it's a little bit harder to do with a 9mm. But what I'm saying is getting your brain, there's a certain level of recoil that if we can just get below that level of fear, anticipation for what that gun's going to do in recoil, if we can get the gun under a certain level of recoil and under a certain spot where we feel really comfortable with the gun and we're not afraid of the gun in any fashion. Let's face it, guys, I don't care if you're 300 pounds, 6'6", we're all a little bit afraid of what these guns do. And the bigger the caliber we go, the worse it gets. It's just natural. And if you're not afraid of kind of, in some kind of self-conscious sense to a certain degree of these guns, then you probably have a problem. And what they do under recoil and how if there's no anticipation there whatsoever, like I said, you are in the 1% and you are awesome. And I commend you, dude. But this video is not for you. If you're like me, that in 9mm, even in 9mm, and I've shot the biggest rounds you can shoot in a pistol, and they don't scare me in the sense of I'm not afraid to shoot them. But have I gotten over the recoil anticipation for those guns? Absolutely not. I have not. Would I flinch if I shot those guns several times in a row? Absolutely, probably would. And that's what we're talking about. There's a certain level that each of us have that if you can get the gun to recoil under that amount, less than that amount, where your brain feels comfortable with pulling that trigger as fast as you can without causing you to want to flinch. I'm not saying you're one of those people that flinches every time you pull the trigger on 9mm. I'm hoping you've trained beyond that point. I think most of us have. But if we're not training consistently, even if we are training consistently, it's hard to get rid of that every time. I've seen YouTubers that shoot thousands and thousands of rounds. I've seen them have recoil anticipation. I've seen them flinch when the gun didn't go off. And I think that's all of us. And most of them probably edit it out of their videos, but I've seen some that couldn't. I've seen competitions shooters flinch during a competition when their gun didn't go off. It happens to the best of them, guys. It happens to me. It happens to all of us. But if you can get a gun to shoot under a certain amount of recoil energy, felt recoil, muzzle rise, it causes those moments to be less and less and less. And I think that's where porting has its main advantage. Is porting, for me, a 9mm puts a gun almost on a 22 level where I can take the gun out, and no matter if I haven't shot it in 2 or 3 months, I can take a gun out, and when I get to shooting it, I get way more comfortable with the gun fast. I'm able to shoot that gun with confidence. And it's all about confidence, guys. Shooting a gun with confidence. But shooting a ported gun just gives you a certain confidence once you've kind of managed to get used to that particular platform again. Say if you're switching platforms or whatever, that confidence comes quicker. That fear or recoil anticipation tends to go away faster. anytime you don't shoot a gun for a month or two, you're always going to have a little bit of that come back. But these kind of guns right here on the table, guys, when you have guns that shoot as soft as these, even if you don't train daily like some of us who have kids, have families, have friends, have jobs, full-time jobs, a lot of hours are put into those things. We might have 8 hours to dedicate to training a month with the pistol. For us guys, this is great because we can gain our confidence. We can get rid of our fear of recoil anticipation and just gain a quick confidence and feel for the gun, where we feel just like we can do what we want to do with the gun, just like a professional would who trains with them every day or shoots thousands of rounds a week. And I think platforms like this help us. And I'm just being honest with you. I think that's the main advantage to this, is it makes us feel, porty guns like these make me feel like I'm shooting a 22. And I just don't need quite the training that I would need, say, shooting a full-on, let's do this one right here. This Kimber 45. This is an Ultra Raptor, and this is the officer model, so the 3-inch 1911. It's lightweight, it's 45. Guys, in order to get rid of that recoil anticipation on this gun, it would take a lot of rounds of me shooting it consistently. Can I shoot this gun very good? Yes. Can I shoot fist-size groups at 10 yards as fast as I can pull the trigger? Absolutely not. And that's because it's just so hard to get the same confidence in shooting a gun like that as you can a gun like this, or especially a gun like this. And that's what I'm talking about. I can pick up one of these porty guns and I feel kind of like I got a 22 in my hands, and I can take a 22 that I haven't shot in 10 years and I can just eat the bullseye up, or eat a baseball-sized bullseye at 15 yards up with a 22 that I haven't shot in years. And I feel like that's what a porty gun does. And that's what nobody talks about. And that's what the one advantage that nobody wants to kind of tell you, because it's so hard to translate with words. But yeah, this gives you the confidence. This gets rid of the fear of recoil anticipation. Yes, there's other training that's required to do that as well, but this will help that get done quicker. This will program the brain to enjoy and to feel confident in your gun platform faster than shooting a non-ported gun. And that's your advantage, guys. I hope you've got something out of this video. I know it was long. I know I may have repeated myself, but I just think this was a good topic, and I like to really dig deep with a certain subject or certain ideal of something, and educate people. And I think that this is something that's not talked about enough. What does a ported gun do? What's the most important thing it does over a non-ported gun, a compensated gun, or a ported gun? It gives confidence. It adds confidence to the shooter that may have a little less training. And it also takes away fear quicker from somebody with a little less training. And even people with more training, it does those things. Unless you're in the top 1% of your game, these things will help. Unless you're championship winners, USPSA, IDPA, other shooting sports as well, still challenge shooters, unless you are first place consistently, you will benefit and you will gain more confidence quicker from using a platform like this as to using a very stock, very plain, lightweight 9mm. And I can almost guarantee you that, and that is the main advantage. God bless, guys. Leave your thoughts below in the comments. Please like and subscribe. It helps me make videos like this. God bless. Have a great day.